The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Belteshazzar, come in. So Arioch tells me you are able to see and interpret my dream. Is that correct?
The secret which the king demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, cannot show the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to King Nebuchadnezzar what shall be done in the latter days. And that was your dream, and the visions in your head as you laid in bed. As for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while you were laying, about what shall come to pass hereafter. And he who reveals secrets has made known to you what will be. But as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but because God wants you to understand what was in your heart. Thou, O king, saw and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arm of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. You saw all of this until a stone which was cut without human hands smote the image upon his feet that were made of iron and clay and broke it to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken into pieces all together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them all away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. Now we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the fields, and the fowl of the air, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are his head of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom, inferior to yours. Then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be, partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure.
In this week's episode, we encounter a mysterious dream that baffles the king and threatens the wise men of Babylon. Daniel steps forward with divine insight, revealing not just the dream, but its profound prophecy for the future. Join us as we uncover the layers of Nebuchadnezzar's dream and explore its powerful implications for kingdoms and empires to come. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right. Welcome back to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Air podcast, here with your hosts,
Nakhaz gay.
and Earl Roberts. Definitely appreciate everyone tuning in again to another week. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the podcast. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the beginning of Daniel. And yeah, man. So, you know when you had just like instantly have a brain fart? But we're going to keep it rolling. How was your week?
My week was okay. I don't think anything special happened. Not that I really could think of. Just been work, trying to work out a little bit.
How was your trip to Oakwood, Huntsville?
Oh yeah, my Huntsville was pretty good. We went to graduation. My wife's cousin graduated, and she had two cousins that graduated within like 2 weeks apart, and we just had like a dinner, to celebrate them. It's really good, some really good family time. I am at a place where I barely know anybody in Huntsville, and truthfully, that's how it should be, because a lot of times people, they get so comfortable in their college town, they just never leave. You know what I'm saying?
They never, ever leave.
Yeah. It's some people who, during my time, I think they just didn't want to commit to a career choice, so they just stayed where they were comfortable. But it's not a lot of people that I recognize from my time that I saw hanging around just because. So it's a new era, man. My little homies are graduating. You know what I'm saying? I don't know these people. Like, these my little homies, little homies, been out of school 8 years now, around that. So
yeah, boy.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that was my weekend. How was yours?
It was good. I mean, last weekend went and celebrated with the fam. My cousin got her master's degree, and it was her birthday, and it was Mother's Day.
Oh yeah.
So it was a lot of things was happening last weekend, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Always good to have fam in town. Kick it with the fam. Fam time is important. So that was good. And then this week, I mean, it's been good. It's been good. No use complaining, right? It's been good overall. Like, had some deadlines, was able to meet them. Some, like, what's interesting? Sometimes we stress about things, and then by some weird miracle, it gets delayed by no fault of your own. So it's like, why was I really stressing? Like, had you told me this, like, 2 days earlier, I wouldn't have stressed as much.
That's true.
Right? But God is good and God is faithful in all things, man. He always makes a way out of no way. So, like we sing that song, right? Why worry when you can pray? So, you pray, God answers prayers, and that's great. That's great. So overall, things are good, man. Things are good.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
So this week we are in Daniel chapter 2, and as a recap for everyone from last week's episode, we started the book of Daniel. There's certain things we didn't even talk about, like Daniel's name itself means God's judgment, or the God will judge. And it's so interesting when you start, as we go through the book, and you see how things in Daniel foreshadow things to come and things that have yet to happen. As Kazi points out multiple times, like Jesus himself said, when you run the signs of the end, go read the book of Daniel. And this is what Jesus said in Matthew 20 something. Can't remember off the top of my head.
I got you in a second. I got you.
Yep. As he searches that up, right? But Jesus himself said, if you want to know the signs of the end, go read Daniel. And Daniel means God's judgments. And a lot of people know Daniel and Revelation have a lot of the same symbology. But back to last week, we know that the Babylonian Empire conquered the Jewish kingdom, right? And as a part of their conquering, they took a lot of the able-bodied men back to their kingdom, and they made them essentially servants. But in Daniel's case, they stripped away their Hebrew names. So Daniel's name was Belteshazzar.
Yeah.
Then you had Shadrach, Meshach, I always want to say Abednego,
A
but it's
bed.
Abednego, something like that. If you hear Walter White say his name, it's like, huh, interesting.
Well, yeah, it's so interesting how people pronounce things differently. And some people say, instead of saying Second Chronicles, they would say Two Chronicles.
But every time someone say the number,
Yeah, and I've heard even like theologians from different countries
no, and it's be like,
say Two Chronicles.
what you talking about? Like verse 2? But
That's what it would give off.
but like how we just ain't used to that. Everyone has a different way of doing it. But it was Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and their names was changed into Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel was Belteshazzar. And then we see, as a part of being in the king's court, fun fact, they actually might have been eunuchs. That's the next thing that the Babylonians actually did too, when they actually took people and put them in their court. They actually made them eunuchs. So that's like an interesting nugget that isn't really like harped on, but they very well might have been eunuchs.
I mean, they weren't married.
And then again, remember all the people, going back to the last book we did before Daniel, which was Esther, because we jumped forward and did Daniel, but remember all the men in the king's court who were like serving the queen, all of them were eunuchs too. So it's just a little interesting there, but we see Daniel, they were supposed to eat of the king's table. And Daniel said, we're not going to, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, say, we're not going to do this. Daniel talked to the chief eunuch and was like, hey, man, I want to do this. Just give us vegetables and fruits, vegetables, water. I was like, put us on a trial period. How long was it? Like 10 days?
Yeah.
10-day trial period. And after that 10 days, they were fitter, stronger, wiser than the other men, and they were able to continue doing this for the next 2 years. 2 years, 3 years, 2 years?
That I don't remember.
2 years. I'm going to say 2 years. You could fact check me on this. And then after that, we see when it was time for the king, after that time period, they were 30 times more advanced than everyone else who ate up the king's table. As that was just a testimony, like, standing up for your beliefs, standing up for God, doing what you know is right, following your convictions, and seeing true to God, and God delivering you and standing up for you. You got those fact checks?
So the first one is Matthew 24, verse 15.
Okay.
When they talking about like the end times and stuff like that. It says, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Now, as for the other thing about Daniel, it was proven in 10 days. That one checks out. But now I don't know if I see how long they did that for, like in terms of years after that. I don't know. The text concludes by saying
3 years. 3 years. Daniel 1 verse 5.
Oh, verse 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
3 years. So, yeah, that's kind of the background. So now we're in chapter 2. So I can start if you have anything else to say.
No, we good.
All right, hold on. Let me just switch versions real quick. All right, so now in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. Then the king gave the command to call all the magicians, all the astrologers, all the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to the king's dream. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is so anxious to know the dream. Sorry. Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic. O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give you the interpretation. Then the king answered and said to the Chaldeans, my decision is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be cut into pieces, and your houses shall be made as an ash heap. However, if you tell me the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation.
So what's so funny about this is um depending on translation. Now, I'm not the big King James is superior translation guy. I used to kind of push that point, but sometimes I see words in the King James when you see it in other versions or even in the Hebrew, it doesn't actually give that context. So anyway, I leave that for the interpretation of whoever, who of the reader. You choose which which version works best for you. I like the King James and the New King James though. But anyway, so in the King James, it said, oh man, verse 5. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me.
Yep.
So a lot of people believe that the reason Nebuchadnezzar wanted not only the interpretation but also the recollection of the dream is because he didn't remember. He just know that it troubled him, you know what I'm saying? But he didn't remember what it was. You know, I think the King James is like one of the only ones that say that. You know,
Correct.
most of the translations what did they say in verse 5?
They
No.
said, well, in this one, in verse 3, just said, I had a dream and my spirit's anxious to know the dream. So it didn't even really mention it. They just,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of it, it says, if you will not make known unto me the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall be cut off in pieces, and your house shall be made a dunghill. That's
Downhill.
yeah, that's one of them. You remember when we was playing that game,
Mhm.
the Daniel game? That was one of the questions, and I had got it right. And they was like, "How do you remember that?" And I'm like, "Bro, no lie, this is something that's like I just couldn't forget when I read it in the Bible when it said, bro, your house is gonna be made a sewer, bro. Like, like, that's just funny. That just shows how serious Nebuchadnezzar was about this dream and its interpretation. Like this really perturbed Nebuchadnezzar, and this wasn't one of them ones where it's like inconsequential or he just let it slide. No, I want to know. I not only do I want you to give me the interpretation, I want you to tell me what the dream was so I know you're not lying to me. You know?
Bro, agreed. And then, so, and let's even break this down a little bit more, right? So, like, who did the king decide to bring to like, help him interpret this dream? Because one, let's just even paint the stage even a little bit more clearer. You had a dream, right? And you wake up in the morning, or even the middle of the night. I think the King James say like his sleep left him.
Mhm.
You wake up in the middle of the night, and we've all been there before. You can't remember this dream, but this dream has such an impression on you.
Mhm.
You like, I must figure out what this dream is.
Mhm.
I must figure out what this dream is. I can't remember it, but I must figure out what this dream was. And not only what it is, this dream clearly had a meaning. I need to understand the meaning of this dream as well. And so now you call the magicians, you call the astrologers, you call the sorcerers, you call the Chaldeans. So you calling all these people. I mean, astrologers read the stars, magicians form different works, the sorcerers deal with the occult, then the Chaldeans deal with all the same. Some people believe the Chaldeans was a class above some of these people, but at the same time, all of these people were people who did these divine, quote unquote, practices, who was able to read dreams, read the tarot cards, read your palms, look at how the water blowing and get a message. So these the people who, if the king gave them the dream, they definitely would have come up with an interpretation.
For sure. Especially with so much on the line, our life and our house and then
Exactly.
yeah.
But you see the king saying, hold on, buddy, I ain't just telling y'all the dream. Because guess what? I don't even know the dream. But if you say the right thing, I can remember it.
Yeah.
But let me see what y'all really work. Because y'all supposed to be the people. This is the greatest kingdom on earth right now. This is the great city of Babylon. It's the same city. And again, Babylon, I don't even think we mentioned this last chapter. We may have. It's been a while since we recorded the last one. But Babel is literally like, gate to God.
Yeah.
Right? So the Tower of Babel, they was trying to build a portal, well, not portal, but they were trying to build a tower to the heavens. They was really trying to build a gate to God. You know what I'm saying? And we know Nimrod established the kingdom of Babylon when it's the time city of Babylon way back then. Lost province, so the Egyptians got more powerful. Couple of years, centuries later, Hammurabi got more powerful. That died down. And now we back in Babylon's glory. And so now this is Babylon, the great city. So now I have the best of the best because I've been conquering all these lands and I brought all the best people here. Y'all have been learning all the ancient Babylonian literature. So even if y'all ain't Babylonian, y'all know our ways. And y'all claim to be the ones who have been, giving me all these prophecies and stuff ever since. So now in a time of crisis, I need y'all. I need to see what y'all truly work.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So when it comes to Chaldeans, right? That word is there's a lot of definitions for it.
Mhm.
Like even now, bro, like I was looking up the definition of Chaldean in recent time, and I think that's referred to like a Middle Eastern Catholic. They call that a Chaldean, right? But in this book, they use Chaldean in a few contexts.
Mhm.
Daniel 2, verse 4, verse 7, 4 through 7, and then in verse 28, that is originally written in Aramaic.
Yep.
And so, like how, like when people talk about how the Old Testament is written, they say Hebrew and Aramaic. Aramaic was the Babylonian language.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like Chaldean used in some instances means native to Babylon. You see what I'm saying? And then in other instances, they use that as the ranking system of like they were some form of soothsayer or astrologer. These things are synonymous. So now he's not just saying that I have the imported wise men from other nations. You see what I'm saying? Like I have the top of the line, y'all from here. You see what I'm saying? Y'all wasn't like from a developing country or from a country that was conquered or anything like that. Y'all is the y'all is the princes of this line, and we basically train y'all just to be super smart and to know everything. And now this for all of the marbles. So it's time to see what I paying y'all for if they was even getting paid. I don't know, but
More than likely, they're eating from the king's table. That's good enough.
for sure.
But now it's time to really see what y'all work. So now in verse 7, they answered again and said, "Let the king tell his servants to dream, and we will give us interpretation." And in verse 8, the king said, "I know for certain that you would gain time because you see that my decision is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream, there is only one decree for you. For you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me its interpretation."
I think this is so like I don't think this a normal. Okay, let me frame this correctly. This is so unusual for someone to ask of their soothsayers because because it's like to some degree you gotta know all of these are humans, right? But at the same time, if they're giving you the impression that they speak to the gods, quote unquote, or they speak to the supernatural, or they have superhuman abilities,
Yeah.
then now is the time to pay the piper. You see what I'm saying? Like now is the time to, you see what I'm saying? Like to prove it. Now is the time to prove it. But I do think like I personally I wouldn't put someone in this predicament because I don't think it's in the human ability to do that. But Nebuchadnezzar,
But let me,
based
keep going. Keep going. No, because I was going to say, oh, sorry, go for it. Go for it.
no,
Finish your point.
I think that he believed that this is that this is attainable, basically. And now he's basically saying, yo, y'all been lying to me. I want to see the real for it. But I know this is possible. Someone got to do it, bro. And y'all could die if y'all don't do it.
Well, one, right? Think about it. Like it's so interesting, right? One, I believe, but we all know God gave him the dream. Either way, but then it's like y'all have been parading around being able to talk to the gods. The gods gave you this message. The gods gave you this interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if y'all saying that, I have a dream. No pun intended to Martin Luther King or whatever. Some people might say Michael King, but that's neither here nor there. Right? I had a dream, and I know y'all. He literally say, if I tell y'all a dream, y'all already purpose in your heart to tell me lies because y'all the one die. So right now, I don't need to hear what I want to hear. Because this dream hit me in such a way, especially when we were getting some of the imagery, this dream hit me in such a way, I know what I would mean. And the meaning might not be what I would need to hear, but I need to hear it. Right? So I don't want y'all just tell me what I want to hear. I need to know the exact message of this dream. And y'all in clean milk can talk to God. So now put your money where your mouth is. Go for it.
But this dream is so lucid that he knew that it came from God. And he knew that only God could interpret it. Because listen to what they say. They say, just tell us the dream and the real, interpret it. That sounds like a simple exchange, right? But he say, I know y'all lying. I know y'all have it in y'all heart to deceive me and to be corrupt because of the fact that they asking to know the dream. Because if God had sent y'all, if y'all communicate with the gods, y'all wouldn't have to ask if I tell
Exactly.
y'all. Right.
Exactly.
If I tell y'all what I want.
Now, what I paying y'all all this money for? Because now y'all can't do this for me. Why trust y'all if I should go to war with the Persians? Well, what I trust in y'all word for, you know?
Yeah, y'all just be talking. And it's so funny because these the wisest men in the land. And it didn't work. It didn't work on Nebuchadnezzar.
Exactly. And then, so the Chaldeans answered the king and said, and which is so interesting, their reply, there is not a man on earth who can tell the king's matter. Therefore, no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such things of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldean. It is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not flesh.
So now they trying to tell him, you ain't being reasonable in what you asking. You asking us something. I mean, and rightfully so, only God, boy. They was right. Only God know this thing, bro. You know what I mean?
They was very right.
But they basically telling him, bro, your line of questioning is flawed. Like you putting us in a position where we can't help you because only God can answer these things.
And it's so interesting, right? How they really trying to reason. They say, hey, because think about it, if their life wasn't on the line, I'm sure they would have tried.
Yeah, but it's easy to expose yourself because if I dream with this statue and you get to telling me about the river.
No, but that's the thing. That's what you're going to say, right? Because right now the stakes too high to try and get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because think about it, right? So it's about 50 us. But we could kind of make, you go in there. All right, it wasn't a river. All right, you go in there. Oh, shoot, it wasn't the Tower of Babel. You go in there. It wasn't the pyramids. Okay. Oh, a statue? Okay. Guys, it's a statue. So now from here on out, but we all building on, okay, the statue had a head of gold.
Maybe?
Well, something like the statue was a statue of gold. Where you can ask me, say, coming back to me, it's only the head. Only the head. Okay. Let me go back and consult with the gods. Next one come in. It was a statue of gold and silver.
Yeah, I think so. But if you don't get it right, then you're dead. So ain't nobody willing to play that game.
So, but yeah, man, like they saying, boy, we ain't even trying. The stakes too high in Nebuchadnezzar. What you asking for is impossible. This only come from God, and this ain't come from these idols, buddy. This come from the step where they ain't no flesh, ain't no etherealness to them, bro. They just spirit. That's all it is. That's the set this revelation comes from. Oh my. And then so in verse 12, for this reason the king was angry and very furious, and he gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men. And they sought Daniel and his companions to kill him. So this is interesting, right? So we see by the time we even get to Daniel, there's already started to kill some of the imposters and the imposers. And what's also interesting is like how they didn't know what was going on before time.
I every time I read this, I just wonder why it takes so long
for the message to get to y'all.
Right.
Like if the king summoned all of y'all to begin with, did y'all just not go the first time?
Boy, I know.
Like,
I
we're
know.
all just saying, but we ain't gonna involve ourselves in this. One of them can tell the king some foolish, and the king will believe it, so it don't make no sense us wasting our time.
I guess, man. Magicians, astrologers, sorcerers, and Chaldeans. If we being technical, maybe it didn't say and all other wise men or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're looking for just the best of the best. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like if you get if let's say all the wise men either fall under one of those categories. If we have all of the categories accounted for, like the extra ones might not make a material difference, especially if they're not from this region. They're not from this country. I don't know. Or maybe the mass because in like I don't know if this art was in Babylon, but in Egypt, the Jews, well, the Israelites, they lived in a completely different city than the
Mm-hmm.
Egyptians, in the book of Genesis. Um, maybe, maybe that's how the Jews was, I don't know, separated and the message just didn't come to them. But by the time it came to Daniel, people was already the the wise men had already got it wrong, or they was already not saying stuff that's pleasing to Nebuchadnezzar. So Nebuchadnezzar issued a decree to start killing them.
Yeah, but he say, but I know this dream important, and y'all ain't no use to me if y'all can't help me in my time of need.
Like,
And then
but
somebody's gonna bend the old king's advisors too, who was just left over. So, bro,
that's
what y'all
true.
here for? Remember, Nebuchadnezzar is still relatively a new king. This is only like what, the second year of his reign? Yeah, this is only the second year of his reign. So might
Oh,
have
and
been up.
and Daniel them was still young. They still was boys.
That is true.
Yeah.
Think about it too, right? If y'all supposed to be training for like 3 years, interesting, yeah. So this might have been,
Just mid training.
yeah. See, y'all ain't the seasoned vets yet.
Yeah.
This ain't the Daniel at the end of Daniel yet. All right, so in verse 14. And then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel asked Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree from the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. Daniel's like, oh, what's the rush, buddy?
Yeah, because this is first time hearing about it. Because
Hey,
because
hey,
usually these things would go on for a while before it get escalated.
hey, like, why are you trying to kill me today? Like, what's going
Today,
on, bro?
it's
Like,
the first I heard about it, bro. Like, wow.
give
You
me
know
a
what I
chance
mean?
to defend myself at least. Like, give me a chance to go ahead and head the king out, man.
For real.
So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might tell the king the interpretation. Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. So I'm like, y'all don't know either? Like, they run up on Daniel about to kill him. Hold on now, give me some time, please. I just find out about this. Then
Real
he go to him
talk.
and tell the boys, hey, boy, you only know we about to die.
No, this the first I heard about it.
Oh
No,
my, but he went
that's
to tell,
interesting.
go for it.
No, that's interesting. That's what I said.
Yeah, then he went to say they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning the secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish when the rest of the wise with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. And we know from the time of Saul how God talks to people, right?
Through prophet or dream or Urim.
Or Urim.
Yeah, bro. So I mean, one thing that's notable here is that, they was all wise men trained in the Babylonian system, but at the end of the day, they still had utmost faith in God. And when the time mattered the most, they bond together and prayed.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Daniel ain't just handle this by himself. He say, man, all us he tell all his boys, and he like, bruh, let's go and pray. You see what I'm saying? And the Lord answered his prayer.
Such a time as this, eh?
All right.
So in verse 20, Daniel said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is hid, what's in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might, and now have made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's demand. That was Daniel's prayer of thanksgiving to God for revealing the dream to him. So powerful stuff. So now in verse 24, therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king's interpretation. So I wonder if Arioch just paused all his killings for Daniel, or he just was still going around slaying people.
That's what I said, because when the king say slay, and you weren't really supposed to be hearing people out type one. But what's also interesting to me, right, is that Daniel was the last to know, but one of the first to get the kill. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, we ain't know how much people Arioch that run through. Because remember, Arioch start killing.
Right, but
then he come to Daniel.
I know, but we know that it was definitely wise men after he come to Daniel. You see what I'm saying? So in my mind,
Agreed. But it's because, like, and again, I ain't even trying to shoot these people bail, right? But suppose it's like the rest of the people in Daniel them ranks who, like, all y'all ain't even had a chance to respond. Because we clearly see people getting killed now who ain't even know what was going on. But y'all just associated with the wise men and y'all getting y'all things too. So it might have been some of these other people who was left.
That is
he might
true.
have killed all the senior men and now he just moving down the ranks.
Yeah, we do not know that. We definitely don't know that. So that's a strong possibility as well. But it's just funny to me because y'all can find me when it's time to kill me. You see what I said? But when it's time to ask for help initially, y'all don't know my address.
Y'all ain't invite me to the table at first.
Not at all.
But quickly trying to ban me from ever having to see the table ever again.
By Arioch, but you could.
And Arioch say, but I just carrying out my mission, buddy.
I just doing my job. But check Arioch. Anyway, Arioch trying to get some credit. Anyway, you can see how it goes.
Then in verse 25, Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah who will make known to king the interpretation.
How you know this man have the interpretation for fuck? You see what I saying?
Right? I sure Daniel had a certain confidence and swagger about himself.
I believe that. So now Arioch, who is the killer, I mean, hey, I found the man. You see what I saying? Like,
it might not even been a confidence and swagger, but it might have just been the grace of the Holy Spirit upon him.
That's true.
And just called him and saying, hey, yes, I don't know. I don't picture Daniel being like all boastful. I just picture him being like more like humble but confident, like I know the dream. Like my God has revealed it to me type thing.
I mean, in all honesty, if Arioch did already give him the time and say you can come back to him, you see what I'm saying? I think it's worth hearing him out because ain't nobody else even have an answer for the king right now. You know what I mean? Because you can die anyway if it's wrong. So why not hear you out?
Agreed. And then so in verse 26, the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. So the king ain't really calling him Daniel.
Right. But Daniel writing it as Daniel. But he's saying what the king say.
Exactly.
Kind of detailed guy, because he wrote in Aramaic what they said in Aramaic. You know what I mean? Like, that's how these new shows is nowadays, like if you have two, like if it's like let's say like a Spanish and American, the English type of show, they'll just speak in Spanish, like, and have the subtitles on it. But it's like the majority of the film in a different language. This ain't just like how how it would usually be like one scene or two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you could watch a show where the majority is in a completely different language and they'll have like English in like the minor, whatever. But he writing it as authentic as it happened. You know what I
No
mean?
interpretation error.
No interpretation. He like, bro, if they say this, but imagine though, imagine I trying to tell you about my friend who's French, who say to me, blah, 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 blah. And in my book, I could say, he told me that I have a very confident demeanor about myself. Or I could say, he told me, quote, da 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 da, you know what I mean? In French. Cool. Whatever make you both float.
Like, okay, I just assume this is that. So,
Yeah, but anywho.
and then, so the king said, "Are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation?" Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king has demanded, the wise man, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and your visions of your head upon your bed were these. As for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while in your bed about what would come to pass after this. And he who reveals the secrets has made known to you what will be. But as for me, the secret is not being revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living. But for our sakes, who make known the interpretation to the king, that you may know the thoughts of your heart."
Interesting. So
And
essentially,
go for it. Go for it.
it's like, I think that kind of answers some of the earnestness that Nebuchadnezzar had, because Nebuchadnezzar, in his heart of hearts, he was like, I wonder what could happen after this. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you at the top, but it don't get more top than the top. Like you already at the top, you can't get more at the top. I mean, you could have a higher rank and you could do more things, but you still could be at first place. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, what's gonna happen after this? This is a high bar. You know what I mean? And even when we read Ecclesiastes and they like, all is vanity. You know what I mean? Like, as a king, who knows your heir? Who knows if they could be wise or if they could be a fool, the person who come after you. You know what I mean?
I am
And
but
so
a mortal man.
right? And so this is something that is there to Nebuchadnezzar's heart. And God answered in the form of a vision. And so it's like, it is very intriguing. But now Nebuchadnezzar can't. And he knew you could feel some of the significance in the dream, but you forget what the dream actually is. So now it's like, bro, you're trying to discover this like your life depended on it. And now Daniel telling him why this is happening. And I'm not getting this vision because I'm super wise or not, but I'm getting this truth, one, because God, and two, so that you could have an answer to the things that you was kind of asking in your heart.
I can imagine Nebuchadnezzar just laying it. Like, just imagine him looking at his kingdom and being like, what's really going to happen after?
All right.
What's really going to happen after I go? And God said,
Awesome.
okay, perfect time for you to have these thoughts. I'm going to modelize this in time forever.
You want to know? I got you.
So in verse 31, you, O king, were watching and behold a great image. This image whose splendor was excellent stood before you, and its form was awesome. The image head was of fine gold. The chest and arms were of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them into pieces. The iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, shake from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found, and the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. So, yeah, let me pull up picture. Let me go into the stuff too. Sorry.
So most people who are familiar with the book of Daniel, they have a few iconic dreams. The first one is actually from Nebuchadnezzar. Now, Nebuchadnezzar isn't the first king to have a dream in the Bible. Pharaoh in the book of Genesis had a dream. He was a little more lenient with his interpretation, though. Nobody's life was at stake, really. Joseph came and interpreted the dream, and that elevated him to a very great place. So now, as for those who are watching on YouTube, here is a visual of, it's like a artist reimagined or drew the actual image, what people believe it to look like of Nebuchadnezzar. So imagine
Yeah,
you
go
sleeping
for
and
it.
this, and you must imagine you sleeping. This kind of interesting though. Imagine you sleeping, you see like a majestic statue of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, because it was going to be like a Babylonian type image. So that's how come they have that's how come most of the pictures have like the Babylonian type, Neo-Babylonian, Assyrian head
Mm-hmm.
and figures, because that's normally what you would think Nebuchadnezzar would see in his dream. But yeah, man, and you see this and you see it getting crushed, and you're like, what's the meaning of this? Like, what is the meaning? And so now in verse 36, now this is the dream. Now we will tell you the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are king of kings, small k, for the God of heaven has given you kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of man dwell, or beasts of the field and the birds of heaven, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler of them all. You are the head of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks into pieces and shatters everything. And like iron crushes, that kingdom will break into pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes and of the feet were partly of iron and clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break into pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it broke into pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the gold, and the silver. The great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure.
Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's take things from the perspective of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar during this time. We obviously have the luxury of having the Bible and knowing history and knowing how even the book of Daniel goes. But at the time, the Babylonian Empire is the very recent empire. So they don't know the people or the nations that are to come after this. They don't have a clue of what the world is going to be like, And so Nebuchadnezzar sitting thinking, what is going to happen after this? And God, in his miraculous way, says, yo, it's so complex. Let me give you a visual of what's going to happen. It's going to be another kingdom, then another inferior kingdom, and then another one, and then another one. And it's just really going to get us watered down until the end when it all gets destroyed by this rock not made by human hands. What's interesting is that each metal is inferior. Each succeeding metal is inferior to the last one. Silver is inferior to gold. What's next? Bronze is inferior to silver. Then we have iron, which is inferior to bronze. And then we have iron mixed with clay.
Mixed with clay.
When you're in
Ceramic
Alabama,
clay.
they got this the soil is red. They call it red clay.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? It's almost like dirt. You know what I mean? Like just like it's like clay. Think about clay.
It's
We
like
all play
Play-Doh.
with, yeah, like Play-Doh. We all play with Play-Doh. My little nephew had some Play-Doh stuck to my shoe the other day. It's a soft material, very soft. It's not a metal. You
It's
know what I'm
definitely
saying?
not
Like,
a metal.
so it is the
Definitely not a
least
metal.
inferior of them all. And you want to go into the symbology for the further symbology of these metals?
And so, yeah, but it's even one more thing, right? And it's the next thing to point out too, right? It's each metal gets inferior in quality, but stronger as each one. Gold is a fine metal. It's expensive. Now, this is back in the day. I don't want to talk about palladium and platinum, which are more expensive now. We're talking about ancient times where gold was still the
Right.
king, was still the king metal. You know?
That's natural resources.
You know what I'm saying? Like we ain't going into the other metals. Oh, we're gonna have someone saying, "Oh yeah, but palladium and platinum are technically more precious than gold." And we ain't talking about them.
Right.
Gold, but silver. You get the silver. Silver is an inferior. Is not as precious as gold, but it's stronger than gold. That's why a lot of people have more silver coins and stuff. Then you get down to bronze. Bronze is stronger. Now you see people start making weaponry out of bronze because it's strong, but it ain't as precious as silver. Then you get down to iron. Iron is very strong, super strong, but it ain't as precious as bronze. And then you get down to the iron and clay, and that's where things get a little funky, right? But now to Kazi's point, each of these metals, they start to represent kingdoms, right? And Daniel hinted at that, and he said the Babylonian kingdom was the head of gold. That was the superior kingdom. And then after them, the arms and the breasts were silver. And then we know which kingdom we have the force out looking back at history, and we see which kingdom conquered the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire. Think about it now, it's a kingdom with two arms, the Medes and the Persians. They are the silver kingdom. After them, what happened? You had a good old fella by the name of Alexander the Great. We hinted towards this when we was going through the book of Esther, who Artaxerxes was fighting. He was fighting the Greeks, or as they call themselves. What do they call themselves again? Because they didn't call themselves
Macedonians.
Macedonians. He was fighting the Macedonian Empire. We call them the Greeks. Alexander the Great got his name the Great for a reason. Conquered the world, and so they became the kingdom of bronze. And funny enough, when you look at what the Greeks used to fight with back then, they used bronze weapons. And who came after the Greeks?
The Romans.
Those good old Italians. And so the Romans, which was literally in the Iron Age, and they literally used iron weapons, and they were a vicious empire that, quite honestly, as Daniel predicted, what did he say? They would crush everything in their path, essentially. And didn't ensure that the Romans do that. And so the Roman Empire was the kingdom of iron that was stronger than all the other kingdoms. The Roman Empire was the largest of all these other kingdoms. But it's so interesting that they weren't the kingdom of gold. They were the kingdom of iron. And now, and just like the Roman Empire, we know after a certain amount of years, the kingdom started to get divided into the Western and Eastern Empire, two legs. And now what happened after those empires, after the Roman Empire kind of started to fade away and crumble? We got left with the feet of iron and clay. Good old Europe. The good old European kingdoms. And what did he say about the feet of iron and clay? They will try to, the seed pieces, sorry, give me a second. In verse 32, the toes were
with the seed of men.
Exactly, it'll mingle with the seed of men. And we know the European, and sometimes it'll be brittle and sometimes it'll be strong. There have been times when Europe has been strong, and there's been times when Europe has been weak. We have known they have tried to intermarry many times. We know Queen Victoria was the grand, which first of all, she was German, but she was like a British queen, intermarrying at its finest. They've been trying to intermarry for years. Oh, we only can marry royal nobility because one day we want to reunite Europe. Napoleon Bonaparte, or Bonaparte, however you want to say it. Sorry, I'm not French. What did he try to do? Reunite Europe. Failed miserably. What did Hitler try to do? Conquer all of Europe. Failed miserably. And even again now, the European nation, the European Union, Brexit happened. Like, as much as they try to reunite Europe, just like how iron doesn't cleave with clay and clay does not cleave to iron, no matter how hard they try, they could never once form a united kingdom. And so, go for it.
And so the thing about this, it's good that this is the second. It's funny because, like, when you think about the book of Daniel, you know stories about Daniel, you know, the Hebrew boys, you know what I'm saying? We know the lion's den. Like, from an elementary standpoint, you know the stories, but there's a lot of prophecy in this book, right? And they get to the prophecy early. We get the introduction to the book of Daniel, why they here, how they handle themselves while in captivity, and then straight to prophecy. But this specific prophecy is a very essential prophecy to understand because it continues to reoccur again in this book and then also in Revelation.
Correct.
And so this is a great foundational piece for end time prophecy because remember they say that, oh, hold on, let me get back to the text because I was busy looking at the picture. And as anyway, so I talk about the part where they say the stone that's cut, the mountain that's cut not from human hands. And this, okay, verse 35. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, and the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like the chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Right? And so, for those who don't know, this stone, oh, okay, this is a good image. This stone represents the return of Jesus, right? So based on the context clues of this prophecy, we know that Jesus's return will happen at the end of the statue, which is the feet of iron and clay. You see what I'm saying? The three former empires have now came and went. You know, the Greek Empire, the Medo-Persian, the Babylonian, the Roman empires, those are now past us, which is why there's a common phrase that we say, oh, we in the last days. People say, oh, Jesus coming soon. You see what I'm saying? Because of the progression of the prophecy that God stated and that has came together to the T already. We know that when Jesus returned, it would be during this time frame in the world. We don't know, obviously, you know, Jesus says no man knows the day or the hour. So we don't know how far along we are or not. Okay. But the stone that comes and destroys the whole statue represents Jesus. It's the stone that is cut out of the mountain without using human hands. And one thing that's so interesting about that is that, you know, Jesus mentions the stone that the builder refuses now, the chief cornerstone. That is also a text. That's also a quote from the book of Daniel. But what is the significance of the stone being not cut with human hands? Whenever they talk about sacrifice in the Old Testament, we know Jesus to be the many types, right? Jesus being the blood of the Lamb who comes to save the sins of the world. This me paraphrasing. But when we look at texts like Deuteronomy 27 verse 5, they talking about the altar that the sacrifice was to go on. There too, you shall build an altar to your God, an altar of stones. Do not wield an iron tool over them. You shall build the altar of your God of unhewn stones. You shall offer on it burnt offerings to your God. You see what I'm saying? We can see evidences in 1 Kings 6 verse 7. When the house was built, only finished stones cut out of the quarry were used, so that no hammer or ox, or axe or any iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. Also, It's a text in Exodus chapter 20, but y'all get the point. When the altar was to be built for the sacrifices, which represents the remission of sins, so that we can be saved, which represents salvation, they will always mention a stone that was made without using tools, without cut not from human hands. It represents the purity, which is why a lamb without blemish would be sacrificed on this altar. It all goes together with the idea of purity. When Jesus came, he did not sin. You see what I'm saying? This is an undefiled man that came and died for our sins. And because of that, he can destroy the establishments, the systems that wants us to worship them in other ways and to take us away from God. So all of this whole statue represents the multiple beast systems in the world that wants to control the mind and the worship of the people at large. During Nebuchadnezzar's time, we can throughout this book, we're gonna see a lot of different ways that the worship of God would be either illegal or be influenced or be influenced against, I should say. And so yeah, basically this was just a look into the future and to show us like these powers are gonna happen and then the return of God is gonna come. But it's interesting that this what they call this vision came to Nebuchadnezzar. That's what's very interesting to me.
Yep. And you can always ask like why Nebuchadnezzar, like of him of all the Babylonian kings, or even before, like why did Nebuchadnezzar the Jewish kings cut it? And some would say like God probably put that desire in his heart to like what could happen next.
I think like it's like Joseph, right? Because the Pharaoh got the dream, God's glory was spread to more people. Joseph interpreted the dream. You see what I'm saying? So it's like if let's say King Hezekiah had a dream and a prophet, because prophets have come to kings all through the book of Kings and Chronicles, right? Prophets come and they reveal things from God. It's no big whoop for real, right? Because this is the same religion and there's an expectation there. But now, when you have the king that rules over many provinces, you see what I'm saying, from Ethiopia to India, you see what I'm saying, like, and that king is perplexed, and now you see this Hebrew who interpreted it, and now it opens the doors for question as to who is this God, who is this marvelous God that can outdo any soothsayer, any Chaldean, any astrologer XYZ. So it's like it does make sense to me. It's just fascinating that that's who it gone to. But when you see Daniel interpreting it, him being the only one to interpret it, you can see where God actually get the glory for the vision that he gave to Nebuchadnezzar.
And yeah, I mean, and again, it's like we reading this now in our context because we know these things had to happen. Bro, this was centuries before any of these empires was coming knocking. You know what I'm saying? Like this, shoot, how many years before the Persians come knocking? And that was just Kingdom 1. Like, no Alexander the Great, but like the Greeks wasn't even like, thinking about revolting this at this point in time.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't even in the Babylonian Empire, I feel like. Like they were still too far east. You know what I'm saying? So it's like centuries ahead of its time. And God was saying, I am going to show you what is going to happen, what is going to take place. So that's powerful prophecy right there. And we see then Daniel was like, this dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. Don't question me. I ain't make this up. I wasn't guessing this whole time. I told you the dream. I told you everything. I told you what it meant. I left no details out. I recall it just like how God told it to me. Then in verse 40, go for it.
No, I just want to say the Exodus text.
Yeah, go for it.
Exodus 20, verse 25. And if you will make me Exodus 20 is the chapter with the 10 Commandments. For those who don't know. If thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. You see what I'm saying? So that's overall the uncut parallel is just showing like the purity of it. It's just undefiled. It's just natural, you know.
And there's
Yep.
one thing then point out to, I know Kasi pointed it out before, but the importance of where the stone strikes the statue. Some illustrations have it striking in the hip, saying, "Oh, the stone already happened." Nope. It's a future point in time, and we know when it should be happening. The feet of iron mixed with clay. So I don't know when that should tell you, oh, it strike during the Greek Empire or something like that.
See, like I think you can people. I think people try to make an argument that Jesus came during the Roman Empire. You see what I'm saying? Like that's when he actually came, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like let's look at what they say was gonna happen when he struck. You see what I'm saying? Oh, where the text is, man. Anyway, I can get back to that. But basically, yeah, because anyway, let me just try to look for the
Yeah,
look
go
for
for it.
yeah, let me just look for the text. The stone struck the image, became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. That's what I'm looking for. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like Jesus came and died for our sins, right? Do we think that this means that this is the same as him becoming a great mountain and filling the whole earth? When we know that Jesus will come and defeat the dragon, that old serpent, the devil, and we will all reign in heaven and then come back to a new earth. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like no sin, no sorrow, and all, and everyone gonna worship God in the ultimate ending of the world. Like, do we think that Jesus coming and dying represents this, or do we think that it can't, bro? Like, let's think about it, bro. If if the stone hits the feet as well,
Exactly. That's what
if the
I'm
stone,
saying.
right, and Jesus comes before the feet even happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
Exactly.
if the stone had came and the mountain would be filled and all of that stuff, then there would be no feet. We would never even get to the feet. You see what I'm saying? Because Jesus came during the Iron Age, you know? And so yeah, it makes sense that prophetically the series of events would have the stone um coming during the feet of iron and clay age.
Yeah, and we see when that stone strikes, all of them, iron, bronze, clay, silver, gold, they all faded away. And it's also interesting too because all of these kingdoms still have theology and
Philosophy.
philosophies that last to this day. Like there are people who still do all the astrology readings. That's still Babylonian.
Yep.
There's a bunch of Roman and Greek philosophers and ways of thought that we all still do. You know what I'm saying? I'll give this right or wrong, but there's so much things that it's crazy. A kingdom that was like 3,000 years ago still has such a huge impact on the world today.
That's true, and that's why. See, and that's another parallel why people say like we'd have like another evidence of us being the feet of iron and clay, because although we're not Roman, right? We are not subject to Rome or Britain or anything like that. But it's like the imprint that it has left on a lot of people, like even among Christianity, the imprint of the Roman way of being Christian. It's like a lot of people are still trying to break out of that. And it's a lot of different discussions on how do you break out of that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was watching something the other day that was saying that during during the Roman Empire, that's when people decided that they would make God in their image, which is why they started painting people in the Bible to look like Europeans during a certain era. Like it was like Michelangelo and these like, these famous
Yep.
painters. It was like, bro, we can make David and Daniel and these people. I don't know if Daniel, but we can make people, but they can just look like us. You know what I mean? Like they ain't gonna look like the people that occupy that land historically, because they didn't really have pictures and things like that. Like they had paintings and sculptures, but not everyone used to have a painting or a sculpture of them. Well, we could just make you look like the average
Yeah, the average European.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, even to this day, you have people who have European versions of Bible figures. And then people take a step further and they make Jesus in any race. You see what I'm saying? So we see Jesus in every race combined, but that wasn't a thing before the Roman Empire. You see what I'm saying? Like now you could argue because of technology or whatever, but that's a deeper discussion to be had. But in verse 44 is what I really wanted to mention. But I was starting to panic because I didn't want to just keep buying time. In the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. You see what I'm saying? And so you could argue, oh, Jesus came and now it's here, but it's like, no, it's not a definitive.
There will be no more inheritance of a kingdom.
You catch what I'm saying? Like Christianity does not reign over all areas of the world, or even all Christian nations for real.
Mm-hmm.
Some Christian nations you can't even say, but like we standing on this thing. You know what I mean? Like even in politics in this country, bro, like it's one or two things that politicians mention, and people be like, oh yeah, they are Christian. You see what I'm saying? But I'm like, bro, if you read the word, it's a lot of things God don't stand for that y'all could never take a stand against type of situation. Like idolatry, that's a big one God just ain't into. But y'all can never stand up and say, boy, we cutting down every form of idolatry. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like any type of that. Like fornication, you know what I mean? Like you can't stand on these things because it'll infringe on other rights that are in place. You see what I'm saying? So it's like to say that the stone hit in the hip or wherever, or the stone already hit, like I don't think that would align with scripture, because does Christianity consume all kingdoms? Bro, I just was in the Middle East, bro. You can't even talk with that like that.
Nope.
In them countries. You know what I mean? Like I went to church. It's like one little plaza with all the denominations. Everybody get like a room, like it's like an apartment complex. Like everybody get their unit. You see what I'm saying? Like, and so, yeah, I think it's definitely this stone is definitive. Like it's crushing all the kingdoms. Like if we think about the actual dream.
So, all right. Now in verse 46, then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, truly your God is God of gods. Truly your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and the revealer of secrets. Since you revealed the secret, then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat at the gate of the king. So Daniel look out for you boys too.
I respect it.
And they say, put your boys on when you make it to the top.
Yeah.
And those who want to come along for the journey, but on the side of kidding around, like we see the king kept his word, and through Daniel being faithful to God and, going to God in a time of trouble, he was able to be on it. He was able to tell the king the dream, not only just the dream, but the interpretation of the dream. And the king knew it was true. And then the king said, all right, I not only given you great rewards, but you know what? I promote you because you clearly in touch with a God who reveals the secret things. I could use a man like this close to me.
That's who I need around.
And he put him in charge of all the wise men of Babylon and administrator over chief of the province of Babylon. So he just like David. David, jeez. Joseph.
Getting like me now.
After Joseph interpreted the dream. Wow. David. Wow.
So watch this, right? But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a few times you can see people sitting at the gate, and like, but sometimes I just be reading these comments, like these Bible commentary, and I just be like, dang, y'all really is be getting deep in the Bible and noticing certain things. But like, So like in those times, sitting at the gate that represents a high rank. You're a high ranking official if you sit at the gate. That's why in the book of Genesis, when Lot was sitting at the gate and he met those angels coming in, it was actually supposed to be a significant thing to let y'all know that, hey, not only did Lot move to Sodom and Gomorrah, but he's a high rank person in Sodom and Gomorrah. He meeting you at the gate. Mordecai, same thing. The last book we was reading, Mordecai was sitting at the gate from time. That was his role. You see what I'm saying? And Mordecai would have come after Daniel. So it's like you can see where the Jews, they still had great connections and pull in these kingdoms that had them that had them captive.
In captivity.
Yeah, in captivity. I don't know why that was tripping me up.
Don't worry. The strangest things is tripping me up. So I know the feeling there, bud.
I feel you. I mean, but to summarize, I don't know if this was a lot of word vomit, a lot of just talking, yapping. Hopefully we made sense. Things to actually take from this chapter is Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He called all of the wisest men in the greatest empire, biblically speaking, to give him the interpretation of the dream and to reveal the dream. They could not. Daniel did. You see what I'm saying? He said the head was of gold, which represents Babylon. The chest and arms of silver, Medo Persia, the Medians and the Persians. Belly and thighs of bronze, Greece, Alexander the Great, right? This is real history, right? Legs of iron, Rome. That was, Jesus them time and it was a very long time. They reigned for very long. They had the longest reign out of anyone in this statue. And then feet of iron and clay, modern Europe. So I want this to be the foundation for anybody who is not into Bible prophecy. Just try your best to commit this to memory. I think it's pretty easy. We have gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. And then it follows the actual timeline of succession of these kings in history and in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? Because we're gonna get introduced to beast-like characteristics that play a significant role during the feat of iron and clay during our time. So Jesus being God has given us prophecies, right? One of the characteristics of the latter church is having the testimony of God, of Jesus, which is the spirit of prophecy. That's Revelation 19. You see what I'm saying? And so it's important for us to understand prophecy because God didn't leave us out here just like a chicken without a head. He didn't leave us out there just to figure it out or to be hopeless against the wiles of the enemies. Jesus is the stone that is not cut from human hands, will return and will crush all of these beast powers and systems. But he gave us an opportunity to know the signs and know what to expect before he comes. King Nebuchadnezzar is troubled by a dream that he just could not remember. So he assembled the Chaldeans, wise men, and other nobles to not only interpret his dream, but to remind him of the dream. And failure to do so would result in their lives. But after a night of prayer, the Lord revealed to Daniel the dream and its interpretation. Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of a statue with different metals that symbolized different empires of the world that would be destroyed by Jesus' eternal kingdom. But let's just say Nebuchadnezzar had a statue of his own in mind. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.